Hello everyone, sorry for the delay, but also sorry for the mess that I'm currently making with noise and audio and all sorts of other stuff. Because I have to switch my mouse and keyboard over to my PlayStation, so give me a second and I'll be back. Should have thought of all this a minute ago, but I didn't, because I'm a dingus. Where'd my controller go? There we go. Server is currently congested. That doesn't make any goddamn sense. It's never congested. What the hell? That's fine. Okie dokie. So, give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to very quickly run and grab a spare mouse to use for my PC to control the stream, and I'll be back. Yeah. Alrighty. Oh man, I'm gonna have to do some UI adjusting. A little bit frustrating, but that's fine. We'll figure it out as we go. Okay. Gotta get into my house first because I haven't played in a while. So it's currently set for demolition because that's how this game works for some reason. Alright, auto demolition cancelled because we entered, which is fine. Okay, so what we're going to do for the next hour or so is content that I like to call Palace of the Dead. I like to call it that because it's what it's called. It's part of the Deep Dungeon content, which is dungeons you can run in unique instances with either 1 or 4 players. They have randomized floor layout, so it's kind of roguelike, almost. And there are traps. You go in at level 1 based on the class that you enter as, so it resets you regardless of level, and you can level up to max if you wish to while you're there. And it's just, yeah, the reason I'm doing it is I'm after the title you get for finishing it solo, which is the Necromancer title, which even to this day, you know, 11, 12 years later, is very hard to get and still quite sought after. So I've been trying for it for a while. I've gotten close a couple of times, but it very much is quite a hard thing to achieve. So I'm also just going to have to mess with my hotbars because I'm using a different monitor for the first time in a while. And I'm going to be sizing things up to make things easier to see, so... Bear with me while I do this. This must be... It's kind of annoying that this happens every single time I change things, or change monitors, but, you know, what can you do? Maybe I should just get a giant, ridiculous desk set up and not worry about it, but that's fine. Totally fine. Okie dokie. Okay. That kinda looks alright, I guess? Ah, nah, it's still all messed up. Hang on. There we go. Okie dokie. So, let's change to my favorite class to do it with. Just gotta check my retainers quickly, and we'll go from there. Hang on a sec. There we go. Size everything up a bit. Okay, because I was playing this previously on, I don't know if anyone has paid attention to the various shows I've done over the years with the boys of the You Don't Know Video Games / Hack the Dino. I bought a super wide curved monitor a couple of years ago, and since playing this last, I've moved back to a standard 1080p gaming monitor, just because it's easier to stream pass through on that than it is to try and do it all on one monitor, which is a nightmare. So, yeah, things are a bit different, which is why we've had to mess with the UI a lot, but it's fine. It's actually kind of easy to resize things on PlayStation, because I can just tap one of the sticks in and it works fine. So, anytime we need to make things more visible, we can do that nice and simply. So, let's head to Quarry Mill, which is where the Palace of the Dead is, well, not located, but it's where the NPC that you need to speak to get there is. So we're going to be talking to this dude, the Woodwhaler Expeditionary Captain. Okay, so I've got one in progress already, but I guess for ease of explanation, and just for the sake of the stream, we'll do a run from the beginning, so I can sort of do a bit of commentary along the way, and, you know, sort of explain it as things happen. So, anyone who was paying attention to, you know, my character class and level and stuff when I was messing around a minute ago outside would have noticed that my character was at level 90, which was the not most recent, the second to last expansion's level cap, because I haven't done the new expansion content yet. I was waiting for friends and things to sort of catch up so we could progress into it together, and that hasn't happened, so I'm probably going to do a solo at some point. But yeah, so these these deep dungeons or unique dungeons reset you to level 1, and depending on which deep dungeon you go into, you have a level cap of... there is a level cap, but depending on what expansion content the dungeon belongs to. So because this is base game, not base game, sorry, Heavensward, so the first expansion, you can go up to level 60 in the dungeon, which, you know, feels powerful by sort of maybe floor 60 or so, but then when you sort of progress past floor 100, it gets kind of dicey. And you level fairly quickly as well. You know, it's not... Oh, I got a sustaining potion. How good. Yeah, you level pretty quickly. Especially if you're running, which most people would be and are. There are bits of equipment that you can put on if you buy things like the Collector's Edition or the digital upgrades and stuff. Which give you boosted experience and things like that. So it makes this a whole lot easier. You can also eat food items, which boost experience for a set amount of time, as well as increase a few stats for half an hour. And you can double stack that to get an hour's worth. But generally you don't need that for 10 floors at a time, because that's how it works. You do layers 1 to 10, then there's a boss, then you do 11 to 20, and there's another boss. So effectively every 10 floors there is a boss fight. Floor 50 has some sort of cutscene-y, exposition-y stuff if you haven't done it before, which is tied to a side quest that sort of explains character lore for some NPCs and stuff. But we're ultimately just here to try and get to floor 200 and get the Necromancer trophy. So we'll just see how far we can get over the course of the next hour. I'm going to be doing just a lot of killing of most monsters on the early floors to get levels quickly, as well as finding treasure chests, which give you items called pomanders. These have different effects, such as increasing your attack stat, your defense, turning you into different types of monster to give you different abilities, such as knockback, instant kills, holy damage, a whole bunch of stuff. But I'll try and explain those as we go and as they happen, or as they're needed, rather. Because yeah, there's no point using them a lot of the time early on. So as things happen, we'll use them, and I'll go through their effects and why I've used it and stuff like that. So hopefully, if anyone decides to give this a watch, it's helpful if you want to get into this kind of thing yourself. But also, you know, just informative, because this isn't content that everybody does. You know, this is very much intended to be sort of like supplementary content to the main story, which the majority of people play this for. Because in my opinion, 14's main story through to Endwalker, because I can't speak for Dawn Trail at the moment, everything from A Realm Reborn up to Endwalker is quite possibly some of the best Final Fantasy storytelling that's ever been released. And that's, you know, coming from me as someone who has, you know, quite publicly and vocally screamed about how Final Fantasy VII is the most important game in my life. I think that's pretty high praise, so... Alright, so we're on floor 2, and we're level 6 already, which is pretty good. It really doesn't take a huge amount to get there anyway. One of the things that is probably the most interesting about these solo attempts on these dungeons is you can come in as any class. As with all things, there is a... what's the word? There is a tier list determining which class is best for this kind of thing. I've gone in as the Machinist, which is probably the top, if not the second to top class to do Palace of Dead with. Purely because of the mobility that you have, because you can move and attack at the same time, whereas a lot of other physical damage classes are stationary when they have to attack, so you have to, you know, take damage while you're moving and attacking and all the other stuff. Machinist is probably best for it because you can just run around at high speed, unleash all of your attacks if you really want to, and, you know, you take less damage by virtue of being, you know, on the move. So yeah, the next and probably best, in my opinion, class would be Red Mage, because they've got ranged magic, physical attacks, they can heal themselves, whereas every other class other than, you know, dedicated healers coming into these dungeons have to rely on potions, which, you know, are good, especially if you get the sustaining potions, which you can get as random drops from enemies in here, or you can exchange items unique to this dungeon for 20 of them at a time. But they're quite hard to find. There's an element of luck. And yeah, it's just to get sort of a decent enough amount to use for bosses, which is required. You have to do a bit of sort of grinding and, you know, do some attempts prior to actually making a serious shot at the 200 floors. So alrighty. You guys won't be able to see it because my dumb face is in the way. But in fact, I'll move my head just for now, because you don't need me to be quite so large and in the way. So I've moved me over the chat box and the like sort of status box that says, oh, you know, you've leveled up, or you've got a potion, you've got X amount of experience. You guys don't need to see that, but to sort of further my point on what I'm about to talk about, I need you to see the top right of the screen. So, where my mouse is currently hovering and circling around... I hope the music just changed to something so severe. Never mind. So yeah, this little blue window up here is the map screen. So, how do I explain it? You can't see every floor, every room on each floor as you first get there. But there are items that you can use called the Pomander of Sight, which allows you to see the entire floor, and it will show you where treasure chests are, as well as what the key locations are, because you've got the Cairn of Return, which will let you escape if you need to, for whatever reason, or leave the dungeon. And there's the Cairn of Passage, which is how you progress to the next floor. That isn't unlocked at the beginning. You have to kill a certain amount of enemies, which is randomized on each floor to unlock that, and that's how you progress on. But that is indicated by the symbols on the map, which you can't really see because it's a bit of a teeny tiny window. But effectively, the Cairn of Passage is a key item, like a key icon shown on the map. And then you've got the Cairn of Return, which is sort of like a three-pronged symbol. Which I don't think I've actually ever used, because I've either always died or left after doing a boss to save my progress. Cool. So we've got 3 Pomanders of Sight now. So next floor, we'll use one of those just so I can demonstrate what the map should look like when it's been fully done. And there we go. So Cairn of Passage has just been activated. But I've also just stumbled upon a trap, which has sealed my abilities and all of my extra attacks. So now the only thing I can do is auto-attack, which, you know, kind of annoying. But not a problem, because it only lasts for about 30 seconds, so we should be okay. There we go. So even though it looks like I'm in a little bit of trouble, we're all good. Level up instantly restores all your health, so we're fine. And we'll pop on over this way to get this treasure chest. Hopefully it's not a mimic. Commander of Witching. So that'll turn us into a succubi, which lets us do ranged AoE fire damage. which is pretty handy against certain bosses later on. But pretty situational, so it doesn't need to be used all the time. You can use it to clear sort of rooms of weaker enemies every now and again, but yeah, it's basically situational. So we can use a Palm of Strength now, which gives me extra damage up, so I do more damage to enemies, but also increases the amount of healing I do when I use my heals. And because we've just got one from that chest, we're topped out again at 3, because you can only hold 3 of each Palm. Okay, so, yeah, we'll use a Palm of Sight just to show you guys what it does. So as you can see, up in the map, all of the rooms have been revealed. Pretty much just a straight shot through. A couple of chests as well. Silver ones are usually, or should, or supposed to, hold upgrades for your weapon and armor. So even though you can come into this dungeon wearing whatever equipment you like. Sorry, I'll just wait for the fanfare to go off so people can hear me talking. Yeah, so even though you can come in wearing whatever equipment you want, using whatever weapons you want, etc. You're forced to use what's called an Aetherpool weapon. So it's a magic weapon, which is why my gun currently looks like a, you know, fantastical black bloody magic thing. And that strength is determined by your Aetherpool arm and armor score. So I've done enough runs of this dungeon to get enough of them to max it out at 99 each. So the silver chests are basically useless to me now. They may or may not contain things like basic potions and stuff. But there's also a chance that they'll have an upgrade for your arm and armor. So, not worth it really at the moment, because I've got plenty of high-level potions and sustaining potions, which is what keeps me alive during the harder boss fights and floors. So it saves a little bit of time in terms of exploration as well, because I can just run through and get, you know, the gold chests and not really worry about anything else. So this Palm that we just got, the Palm of Intuition, we'll use one of those. Oops, I didn't mean to use that one. I just turned into a succubus. Never mind, we'll cancel that out. So the Palm of Intuition shows you, or tells you rather, that there is a piece of the accursed horde on the map somewhere on this level. And what that means is it's effectively this dungeon's unique treasure or token item that you can use to exchange for rewards outside. And that shows up on the map as this little golden pillar of light. You stand here, a chest appears, you open it, and you get a piece of the accursed horde. You then take this to an NPC outside of the dungeon when you're done, have it appraised, and depending on what it is, it could be what's called a Gelmoran pot shard, which is the unique dungeon item, and you can exchange that for rare rewards and stuff. Or it could just be, you know, semi-rare equipment or things for the sort of high value that you can sell on the in-game marketplace for Gil. So totally worth it, even though this is expansion content from like 2012. It's absolutely worth doing. So, also just gonna quickly check the Discord, sorry, because it looks like people. So I put a poll up earlier, just asking if people wanted to, what they wanted me to, what the community wanted me to stream, and I put up the choice of carrying on Silksong, which I'll probably do during the week, Final Fantasy XIV, Clone Hero, or just told them to recommend something to me, and Final Fantasy XIV was the clear winner until Floppy saw the poll, voted for Clone Hero, and pushed it to the highest amount of votes, and it's too late because I'm already streaming, so maybe next time. I would like to stream Clone Hero again, but I'd have to do a little bit of setup to make the stream look a bit better for it. there's some specific sort of graphics and layouts that I'd like to use for that. So I'd also have to set up a second camera because I'd want to show off, well, not show off, I would want there to be like a face cam or a body cam, as well as one that showed off the fret hand, just so people could see sort of, you know, the complicated patterns and sort of the, not to brag, because I'm not super good at Clone Hero by any means, but I'd want people to see sort of the level of complexity and the sort of speed of which your hand needs to move when you play at sort of expert level and higher. And I say expert level and higher because you've got people who can get through expert songs like me, and then you've got, you know, top tier streamers like SI and stuff who can 100% ridiculous things and they have to two-hand the fretboard, and yeah, it's ridiculous. So we just hit a luring trap, which basically spawns just a gaggle of enemies to all attack and aggro on you straight away, which can be devastating on higher floors, especially if you walk into a room that already has a lot of enemies anyway, because if you hit a luring trap while you're already dealing with 2 or 3 sort of strong monsters, having another 3, 4, sometimes even 5 is just almost run-ending depending on how you handle it. So yeah, luckily the Machinist has got tools to stun and make some enemies slower, so you can sort of, you know, pop your sprint, slow down a couple of enemies, stun one, and then sort of make your way into a room that's a bit safer and start picking them off one by one. Which again is why I'm playing Machinist, because it's all about safety and making sure the run is as safe as possible. At least, you know, with the level of skill and knowledge that I have for these dungeons. Because, you know, there are people out there who have finished, you know, Palace of the Dead and the other deep dungeons on every class. You know, you can do it as a white mage if you really want to, because although it's slower going, you know, white mage is probably super safe because you can pop regen, you can keep healing yourself. You know, it's just, yeah, one of those things. Okay. Floor 7. No cursed horde on this floor, so we can pretty much just run in whatever direction we want and start figuring it out. So I'll do my best to explain things as they happen and as I do different things requiring explanation. And I just hope that, you know, if I'm incorrect, people speak up, because, you know, I'm going based off of what I've read and what I understand from the guides and materials that I've looked at to do this. So, by all means, I don't want to be spreading misinformation. So, yeah. Comments would be appreciated so that I can use it to learn next time, if I need to. And also, I just hope that this isn't dreadfully boring, because I find it enjoyable. Alright, so that's the cairn of passage. A couple more enemies to kill before it'll open, I reckon. Impeding traps and no attacking for a little bit. Well, no special attacks or abilities. So we'll just go based off of auto attack. We should be fine. And while that's happening, now there's a sip of water. Okay. Bonk. Counter passage active. So, we'll zip back this way. Kill that beetle. And then we'll pop through to floor 8. So this is a little bit slower than the sort of pace I would normally do this at. Usually floor 1 to 10 takes maybe sort of 10-15 minutes tops if you're sort of speeding through, but again, I want to sort of explain things as they happen, so that people who are watching, or anyone who does watch later on the video on the channel, sort of knows what's happening if they're new to it. So we've got 2 pieces of the Accursed Horde to evaluate, so we'll probably stock those up, and we'll go and check those out at the end of the stream before I head off. But I figure, yeah, we'll probably go probably for another 45 minutes to an hour. Ooh, that was close. So what just happened there was a landmine went off, which is potentially deadly. As you can see, it dropped me to about 20% HP. And they're not percentage based, they're just, you know, they do damage, and depending on what your existing health is already at, they can just outright kill you. So, very scary. Generally, they're sort of hidden. Not hidden, sorry. Generally, traps are placed further towards the sort of center and open areas on the map. So if you sort of hug the wall a little bit and generally tend to stick to the corners, you'll be safe most of the time until you start getting to sort of floor 130, 140, where things get a little bit dicier. I think the highest I've gotten out of 200 floors, I think it was like 180, 181 or something. And I got nervous because I was close to the tippy top, and panicked a little bit when I got into a fight with a larger group of mobs than I thought I could handle, and yeah, it didn't go well. So that was pretty devastating, and that was a while ago. That was like, I don't know, it was like late last year, late 2024, because it's been a while since I sort of played this with any like serious intent to do anything. I've just been checking in here and there, making sure the house doesn't get demolished, because the guild housing that you buy, if you're not active, I think for something like 45 days, it can be demolished. You lose the plot of land, you lose your house. All of your items and stuff is given to you in storage. So all of your furniture and bits and pieces gets retained. But I think you only get back something like 3/4 of the investment price for the land. So you know, we'd get back some of the stuff that we spent to do it. But because nobody that I bought the house plays anymore, it would land in my pockets and I wouldn't know what to do with it. I say they don't play anymore, like, you know, my housemate no longer wants to play, finished Endwalker and said she was done with it. One of my buddies, MC, he's just not fallen off of it entirely, but was playing catch-up with me and the others for a little while, because things got busy and, you know, personal reasons. But just, you know, there are so many games that come out these days, and as an adult, it's often quite hard to find time to do stuff like, you know, an MMO that requires a time commitment. So, I'm sure he'll get back to it one day. So one thing the Pomander of Sight also does, as well as revealing the map and all the treasure, it also reveals the location of the traps. You can generally tell what the trap is going to do based on its symbol. So I'm 99% confident that if I stood on that one, I'd turn into a frog. There we go. So that puts you into Toad status for 20 seconds, meaning you take extra damage, you can't attack, and your movement options are limited as well. Oh god. So it's kind of annoying. Not something you want to do a lot when you're in here. But yeah, I didn't even mean to stand on that one. I thought I was well outside of its the glyph's range, but apparently not. Commander of Steel, so we're going to use that and increase our defense. So all of our vulnerabilities go down, so attack damage is reduced, as well as efficiency of things like status effects. I believe I haven't ever tested the status effect bit. Okay, so first boss, Palace Death Gaze. So the Death Gaze is in other Final Fantasy games. Death Gaze is like a typical sort of high-level enemy in a lot of the other main series games. Pretty sure it was translated a little differently in Final Fantasy IX, because one of the final bosses in the sort of run-up to the end game is called Death Guise. As in, you know, guys, you know, G-U-I-S-E, not guys as in people. But yeah, it's also a normal enemy out in the world in Final Fantasy XIV, like sort of a level 40-50 mob. And this is just a unique version for Palace of the Dead. Nothing really to worry about. Even solo, it's just a case of hit it with attacks as quickly as possible, try and nuke it down. It does a little bit of damage as a solo player, but it's nothing that's sort of particularly bad, especially if you get around the same sort of level as it prior to getting to the floor. I think the lowest level I've done this at is level 17, because, you know, along with the healing ability that all physical classes have, Second Wind, I've also got potions and sustaining potions that if I really need to, I can use. But realistically, for this first boss, you can pretty much just tank your way through it and nuke it down before it gets too serious. So, nice and simple. And your burst damage gets so much quicker and better just the further you get through. So, although the later bosses have more health, they're harder, they do more damage, you've got more options to deal with them. So, it sort of balances out. So, hopefully, my very rushed... Oh, I have mail, apparently. Hopefully my very rushed and sort of sporadic explanation of how things work in here so far has been easy enough to understand or follow along. But again, if anyone's watching this post-stream, just on the channel as a video on demand, yeah, pop some comments down, ask away, and I'll answer what I can. And we'll go from there, because engagement is good. So we'll probably go a little bit quicker through this floor, just because we can. Commander of Fortune, I'm not going to use that one right now. Okay, the Cursed Horde is on the floor, which is good. So we'll find another one, which is nice. Over the next couple of levels, we'll start getting some newer attacks, which will be fun. Cool. So the Accursed Horde and the Count of Passage are both in this room, which is good. Plus a treasure chest, which will also be nice, hopefully. Nice. Commander of Alteration. I can't remember what the Palm of Alteration does. Changes the enemy occupying a random room on the next floor into a Mimic or a Mandragora. Okay, so it turns an enemy into a Mimic chest. I've never found a practical use for that, so I don't really know what it's all about. But I'm sure there's a strategy for it, and I'm sure it's got a purpose outside of, you know, what I think it is, which is silly. Cool. So this floor has a bonus effect on it. So haste granted means that my general attack speed, so for both auto attacks and my abilities, will be a lot quicker. So cooldowns for my attacks are probably reduced by... just says reduced, doesn't tell me what percentage is. It feels like it's probably about 15-20%. But yeah, very nice little bonus to get. The downside being, while there are positive effects that you can get, there are also negative ones. So you can have things like your auto regen, so your health between battles will refill normally, but that can be stopped by a curse on the floor just at random. So, you know, you won't be able to heal between combat, so you've got to be a bit smarter about what you do if that happens, or rely on potions a lot harder. But there are also Pomanders of Serenity, which remove enchantments and curses, so... Mother Pfeiffer. So, if you do... what's the word I'm looking for? If you do get hit with a curse like Pox or the auto-healing disabled, you can use a Palm of Serenity to get rid of those effects, but it will also get rid of any positive effects as well. Alright, so we'll head off to the next floor, as we can. Alright, it's a bronze chest, so we don't need that. The accursed horde is on this floor, so that's good. We'll hopefully get another one of those shortly. Man, I need a haircut. So realistically, to make this even quicker, dang, been hit by an impeding trap, that's not good. To make floors even quicker, that little green sort of circle of light that appeared around my character a moment ago is for an ability called Peloton, which increases movement speed of yourself for, I think it's 30 seconds? Yeah, 30 seconds. And you can only use it out of combat, so you have to use it repeatedly, you know, every time you sort of murder an enemy, or a group of. But it does make things a little bit quicker, and you can use that in combination, or sorry, in rotation with your sprint, which takes, I think, a minute to cool down, but Peloton can be just sort of spammed over and over. So I should be using that to make this faster, but I also don't want to rush things, because this is my first attempt in a long time. So we don't want to be doing anything silly. Alrighty. Also, for anyone who does decide, or, you know, by chance, if you do decide based on this gameplay to get into Final Fantasy XIV, just based on my recommendation about it being, you know, one of the best storylines in Final Fantasy, full stop, I would highly recommend, if you're going to be playing on console, get a mouse and keyboard. Not because it's required, you know, there is a fairly comprehensive controller layout. I'm just personally not a fan of it. It makes things a lot easier if you can just mouse over stuff and, you know, do things this way, because it's just a lot quicker in my opinion. Targeting on controller is also a little weird, but yeah. It's definitely something I would recommend. I tried to play with controller for a little while, and even sometimes I will still play this on my PlayStation Portal, and I'll use controller layout because I have to, just to do things like my daily quests, and sometimes try and get a bit of progress done in these solo dungeons, or deep dungeons rather. But it's not my preference by far. Mouse and keyboard, especially an MMO mouse with like side buttons, makes it such a more manageable game. So anyone who is playing without one, I would recommend giving it a try. I'm using like a cheap $40 Red Dragon MMO mouse, which has served me very well for the last sort of 2 and a bit years. But there is a master list of compatible mice and keyboards on Reddit for PlayStation 4 and 5, which you can use. But also, you don't have to play on PlayStation. You can play on PC, you can play on Xbox. There is a mobile version of Final Fantasy XIV coming out soon, which I believe is a separate thing to the actual sort of main MMO. I'm not sure how it's going to work. I know it's already out in China and in some Asian territories at the moment, but it's not currently available here or in other sort of Western countries. But yeah, it's a fun time. I like it. It's got a good story, amazing music, super nice callbacks to other games in the series. It's obviously more fun with friends. But yeah, I don't know. It's also free to play up to like level 70, so there's not really an excuse not to try it out. Okay, Palm of Intuition. We've got another piece of the Accursed Horde on this level, so we'll find that as we make our way through. We've also unlocked the third attack in our rotation, so we've got 1, 2, and 3 now on the keys ready to go. So using them in succession, I don't know if you guys can see it, but down here, you can combo abilities into each other. So when you use the first one, it highlights the next button to use in sequence, and if you do them in sequence, you get things like bonus damage and bonus effects and stuff depending on what the attack is. So it's always worth following along with that when you're doing any kind of dungeon content, whether it's bosses or just mob pools, like groups of enemies and stuff. So yeah, I screwed up there and I started with the first one instead of going in with the one that was highlighted to do the extra damage. But yeah, always worth doing your combos. No reason not to. It's also worthwhile paying attention to things like how quick your auto attack is, because sometimes that will finish it off and you might waste a perfectly good combo ability on something that is about to die anyway. So this floor is a lot bigger than I thought it was. It's a lot of rooms. There we go, that's what we're looking for. So that little golden pillar of light is where our treasure is. And you don't need to use the Palm of Intuition to find them. Sometimes you can get lucky and just sort of stand in a spot and the chest will appear anyway. But the Pomander of Intuition just gives you a guaranteed, like, yes or no, it's on the floor and you go and find it. So you can get lucky and just find them, but if you've got the Intuition Poms, it's worth using. Especially if you're anywhere prior to the second to last floor of the set of floors that you're doing. And by that I mean, for example, on this floor, or this level of the dungeon rather, if I had a Palm of Intuition and I was on floor 18, I would use it, but if I was on floor 19, I wouldn't use it, because, you know, you might not find anything on floor 20 and then it's the boss floor, so. Because they do carry forwards if you don't get a guaranteed, yes, there's a treasure on this floor, so. So the next time we find one, as long as it's not floor 19, we'll give it a go. Okay, anything here? Nope. Just the one exit as well, so we'll just go where we need to. So something we haven't really touched on yet is enemy types. So each set of floors has sort of your standard enemies that sort of just stay in place and maybe move around a little bit and have, you know, a set aggro radius. There are also wandering enemies. So these are enemies that will basically roam the entire floor. There can be multiple of these on a set path, and they'll just wander between rooms and sometimes cause a bit of aggro. Because, you know, you could be in the middle of a fight, not be paying attention to the fact that one of them walked past you a few minutes ago and is now on its way back to where you are. So that can be a little scary, especially on later floors where the enemies hit a lot harder. But yeah, generally speaking, I don't tend to get too panicky or nervous when I'm doing this until I hit sort of maybe floor 140, 150, because at that point you're so far, you're so close to 200, and that's where you really need to start paying attention to what enemies are what, you know, where they're roaming, how many. You've really got to pay attention to traps and make smart use of your pomanders, because it's pretty much necessary to have strength and steel pomanders both running most of the time on the later floors, especially against the bosses. Because, yeah, some of the bosses at later levels can just completely outdamage any healing you do. And that right there was a perfect example of a roaming enemy catching up to me. And being a bum. But that's fine. Pomander of Fortune, don't need that. We'll kill this Palace Ninky Nanka. So on later floors, these guys are quite dangerous because that brackish drop attack they do with the water sort of pillar that hits you, that does a lot of damage. So you can be in the middle of a fight with another thing, you aggro one of those by accident, get hit with one of them out of nowhere, and yeah, things can go south very, very quickly. Okay, so on this floor, like we were talking about in floors 1 to 10, there's a, I guess it's not an enchantment, it's more of a curse really. On this floor, auto-healing is disabled, and that goes the same for enemies and me, so eventually, you know, if you run away from an enemy long enough and get far enough away from its sort of spawn point, they will return back, you'll lose aggro, and they will refill their health. Conversely, my health will not restore when I'm out of combat on this floor unless I use healing items and potions. So, not too much of a problem, because these enemies on this floor are pretty weak. But if I got hit by, say, a mine, or got ganged up on by a couple of different enemies and took a lot of damage very quickly, it could be quite dicey. But we got lucky there, we got a level up, so it filled up my HP again, which is good, because that happens on every level up. It just restores you to normal status, pretty much. But yeah, I think the Can of Return is already open, so we can move on. We just got to go find it. Can of Return, sorry, Can of Passage. There's nothing in this room save for a couple of enemies, so we'll kill these guys quickly, just to get a bit more experience. I think ideally we want to be sort of approaching level 33, 34 by the time we get to the boss on this one. Ultimately, the higher the better. But yeah, you know, realistically, mid-30s is probably safe. That's why we're just taking out as many little enemies as we can along the way, just because it's worth it for the experience. I just realised we don't have the food buff, so we're not getting more experience as a bonus, so we'll do that next floor. Commander of Steel, so we'll use one of those, pick that one up to restock us back to 3. Okay, floor 17, no enchantments, no curses, and a couple of directions to go. Give me 2 seconds just to check some stuff. Okay, let's go. Okay, so this was a dead end. This is where the Can of Passage is, so we know that now. That's good. So I've just unlocked another ability which gives me another slightly faster attack option for the tankier enemies and my bosses, which is nice. Like, my muscle memory for my attack rotations and stuff is still here, but I unfortunately don't remember what my attacks and abilities do in detail. I just know, like, how to use them. So the one in question is called Hypercharge. Gives you 5 stacks of an effect called Overheated, which increases the potency of single target weapon skills by 20. So I can use that in combination with an attack called Heat Blast to do 5 attacks that have increased efficiency. And I can do them all in quick succession, so it's good burst damage, good for taking down bosses, or for DPS checks, like that kind of thing. So we'll demonstrate it now. Oh no, I don't have the actual attack bit just yet, but it does make my single target rotation stronger for 5 attacks, which is good. Okay, so a can of passage is open. Anyone familiar with Final Fantasy knows that Bad Breath is just generally a bad time. It's a wide-ranging AoE attack that inflicts multiple different negative status effects, so pretty bad. I think probably the worst example of it is from the Grand or King Malboro in Final Fantasy X. Yeah. Oh, sorry, the Malboro Menace is probably the worst one. Always begins the attack with a preemptive strike, uses Bad Breath straight away, and just can take out all of your characters in one go. I mean, I think my second least favourite version of the Malboro is the one from Final Fantasy VIII. Because it requires you to, well, to get things like the ultimate weapons for your characters and things, you have to farm them on a place called the Island Closest to Hell, which is full of strong monsters, but also just generally, they're not fun. Bad Breath is a thing. They're strong as is, they've got quite a bit of HP, and, you know, you don't have to farm them to get the items you need, but it's what most people do until they figure out, you know, using the mug or transform abilities to get items from enemies without killing them. Because Final Fantasy VIII gets harder the more experience you gain, because enemies level up in conjunction with Squall, so the more leveling up you do with him, the harder you make the game for yourself. Because bosses don't give you experience, so you can sort of get through the game in such a way that you keep Squall and company at low level. Which is what I think most people do now on playthroughs past their first one. But yeah, a casual playthrough, most people just go, experience and leveling, that's good. And then inadvertently make the game much, much harder for themselves. So for anybody wondering who's not familiar with MMOs as well, anytime you see like a big sort of orange shape or status on the floor, that's basically the game indicating where an enemy attack is going to land and how much range it has. So it gives you a heads up that you can use to avoid, because you'll always have a chance to avoid stuff in most cases, except for things like auto attacks and stuff like that. It's just in the nature of MMOs, you know, it would be a little bit unfair if enemies were doing massive attacks and huge negative status effect things, and it didn't give you a chance to react, so. But it's all part of the fun, learning the mechanics and learning how to do things. Not for everyone, for sure, but yeah. Anyone who likes a good story and doesn't mind doing things at their own pace or with friends and sort of figuring things out over time, I recommend it. Under a flight, so we don't need that, so I guess we'll just move on. What floor are we on? Is that 16 or 18? I can't tell. Because that window is far too small. wonder if I can make it bigger without having to mess with the HUD anymore. Let's have a look. There we go. Make it a bit bigger. Okay, so we're on floor 19. So last one before the boss. I don't think there's going to be anything too crazy on this one. We might get lucky and find a piece of the accursed horde just by chance. Oh, I didn't see you, you dingus. Alright, so we just stunned one of them to keep him from getting a bit too close. And then Mr. Second Dingus is just going to die anyway. Alright, so we use another Pomander of Steel. Raise our defense. That enemy turned into a treasure chest, and that's pretty good. Palm of Strength, so we'll use that, boost us, our healing and our attack capabilities. Murder this guy, and then move on to the next boss. Which, you know, probably be maybe level 34 by the time we get there. Oh, another Wanderer just caught up with us. Enfeebling Trap, which has just made me weaker. A little annoying, but nothing too crazy. Cool. Enfeebling spell is going to last a little bit longer. So, I'm just going to respond to a message quickly. Okay, let's move on now. That's gone. Alrighty, so just gonna eat some food quickly. Alrighty. Let's go. So yeah, this boss, even straight away over the first one, does a lot more damage a lot more quickly. Still nothing really too scary. Like, all the healing and stuff that we've got available is enough to, you know, balance out what it can do to us. And ultimately, you know, it's going to die before I get into too much trouble. These wasps on later levels, because the bosses basically recycle but get harder when you get past floor 100. So floor 110's boss is basically a palette swap or a clone of floor 10. And then floor 120's boss, I'm pretty sure the wasps have like a one-hit KO mechanic, so you have to kill them very, very quickly. Otherwise, you can just get swarmed by them. And, you know, pretty much die immediately, which isn't handy, especially when you get that far. I should specify as well, when I was talking at the beginning about clearing the 200 floors solo, the reason this is so hard is because although the game saves your progress when you get past every 10th floor, you have to do it without dying. You can't, you know, get to floor 60, die at 61, start from floor 50, you know, with the same save file, and progress from there. It has to be a straight run from floor 1 to 200 without any deaths. So you can stop every 10 floors and save your progress and come back to it when you're feeling ready or you've got time or whatever. But you cannot die at any point and carry on that save file from there with a death that's been registered. You have to reset the entire thing and do it from 1. Which is where the difficulty comes in, because, you know, getting a couple of floors done every now and again, totally fine. But yeah, it's when you get... It's not even a halfway point. Like, floors 1 to 100, I can probably say with 99% sort of confidence that I can do that without much trouble now. Like, I don't think I've died on those floors probably in my last maybe 20 attempts. But it's when you get past floor 120, 130, things start to get, like, real. Like, that's when it's like, okay, this is a legit run. And then when you clear 150, 160, it's like, oh god, okay, now we're in the big leagues, because you get to a really weird part of a dungeon, everything's way harder. There's so much more room for error at the higher levels. But it gets really nervous, and it's just, yeah, thinking about getting that far and failing again makes me like, ugh. So, yeah. It's a scary, scary place to be. Alrighty. I reckon we'll do these next 10 floors. And that'll probably be it for tonight, just because I was a little bit late getting started. I probably should have done a bit more prep beforehand. But, yeah, we'll do the next 10 floors. And we'll see where we're at. So again, Palm of Intuition. Accursed Horde is on this floor, right ahead of us, which is nice. Still got the food buff, which is also nice, so we'll keep using that for the extra experience and damage that it gives us. And it's probably from these floors onwards that you'll start to notice the enemies are taking a lot more damage, and will do a lot more damage if we don't not play perfectly, but play in a more optimal way. Because, yeah, the enemies are now a couple of levels higher than us. So, we'll catch up quick enough. You know, we're at level 35. One of these guys gives us a decent amount of experience. You know, 4 or 5 of those tortoises will... Sorry, adamantoids. 4 or 5 of those will give us a level at this point. And now we've got our super quick DPS burst, so we can actually take things down a lot quicker. See, that was much faster, that one there, just because we used that ability. So Palm of Rage, what we just got from that chest, can be super helpful. Turns you into a behemoth. Not a behemoth, sorry, a manticore. And the attack that you have when you're in that form gives you... It has 2 effects. Most of the time, it's a one-hit kill for any enemy. You can just... Well, except for bosses. You can just swipe at an enemy and it will kill them. Or if it doesn't kill them because of a floor effect, like immediate deaths not working or whatever, it will do knockback, so it will push them further away from you so you don't take as much damage as quickly. So, super good to burn in an emergency. Say you walk into a room with a lot of enemies when you hit a lure trap. pop a Manticore Pomander, turn into a big beastie and start swiping, and things just die. It's very, very handy. There have been more than a few occasions where I've walked into a room, hit a lure trap, run away, panicked, and had a bunch of stuff just come at me, and I've gone, you know what, screw it. Turned into a Manticore, took everything out. And it's a nice way to sort of give yourself a bit of breathing room. I don't think there's any specific strategy to use them for bosses. There might be. I know there are for other Pomanders that turn you into like an angel for holy damage and AoEs and stuff. There's a boss at floor 100, which is effectively a giant lich, which you need to use the AoE damage for because it does holy damage and does a lot of holy damage, which it's weak to. But it also does AoE damage, so area damage, and you can use that to take on the additional monsters that it spawns throughout the fight, you know, quickly. Keeps them off of you, keeps you alive. It's just part of the strategy to make things work, which is nice. Why aren't you dying? There we go. Alright. Pomander of Sight. So we'll use one of those quickly. Go. So it gives us a nice view of the map again, shows us any traps to throw around. Not that there's anything too crazy to worry about here, but yeah. Oh. You came out of nowhere. Cool. Alrighty. If this doesn't push us to level 37, we'll kill the Adamantoids in the corner as well. So something very handy about Heat Blast, which is that attack that we use in succession with Overheat. It actually refills, or resets, sorry, the timer on another attack we can use by 15 seconds, which has a 30-second cooldown. So you've got Gorse Round, which is a one-off attack that does 130 potency, or has a potency of 130. And Heat Blast reduces that timer when you've used it by 15. So if you spam that and use it quickly, and then use all of your Gorse Round charges, or Heat Blast, sorry, you've got another 2 Gorse Rounds to use. So if you can figure out the balance, you can actually rotate between Gorse Round, Ricochet, which is an ability we unlock a little bit later, I believe at level 50? Yeah. So these 3 attacks, if you've got Hypercharge and Overheat ready, you can use Heat Blast to reset the timers on these, which are individually tracked, and you can just rotate between those 3 attacks and keep your damage up. So it's a really good way to get an extra sort of big burst. So very handy for bosses later on. So we'll show that off now. We'll use a couple of those to get a Gorse Charge, and then another 2. Gorse Charges back up. So I don't know if that was a decent enough demonstration, but hopefully it sort of showed off my point a little bit. Cool, cool, cool. I'm quite pleased with the amount of sustaining potions we've gotten just as drops from the monsters, because I came in with, I think, 287, so we've picked up 13. Back at 300, which is pretty good. Like, you know, we've almost gotten a full stack of them for trading in a pot shard. Just by killing enemies, which is nice. Haven't had to use any yet, which is good. But from sort of floor 50 onwards, where the bosses get a bit tougher, excuse me, we'll have to. So. have some water. Damage dealt decreased. Okay. So the enchantment on this floor means that all of the damage for I deal is decreased. I don't know if enemies will also do less damage as well. No, just party members. So we can offset that by using a Pomander of Strength to sort of bring things back to normal. It's not optimal to do that because, you know, we want to be saving the bombs for boss fights or like bigger rooms and larger groups. But just in the name of time and sort of speeding things up, we'll use one now. Go. Palm of Strength, so we've just replenished the one we used. That's not a bad outcome, honestly. So here we go, there's Heat Blast, which reduces the timer on Gorse Round. So we got an extra 2 attacks off of that nice and quickly, and that guy died much faster than he would have. Hand of Passage has been activated, but we'll kill this guy just for a little bit more experience. Ooh. Didn't realize I was quite so close to dying. It's another thing that, having not done this for so long, I'm also not used to paying attention to the health bar because I haven't done anything in Final Fantasy XIV recently that's required me to actually keep track of my my health or anything. Alright, so we'll use a Pomp of Strength again, just to restock that, because the timer on those is only 8 minutes. We'll also pop some more food on, because that food buff ran out. So that's boosting our experience, as well as some attack damage, which is nice. So, Heat Blast, replenish Gorse Round. Nice, nice. Ooh, okay. So these guys, the Palace Minotaurs, they can actually do quite a bit of damage if you don't pay attention. So that 111 tons swing attack, if you get hit by that, you get knocked back, but it also does like 30% of your health. It's kind of ridiculous. We use a Commander of Sight just to give us a little bit of safety from traps and stuff. Gonna have to use a potion in a second. There we go. Alright. So we will just go for this treasure chest, because why not? Also a little bit more experience. It'd be nice to be level 40. Or potentially higher. We might get to sort of 45 before the boss, which would be good. Because I think the boss is either level 45 or 50 for this layer. So anything we can do to sort of mitigate any damage that it will do by being a high level is good. Cool, so our action damage has just been increased as part of our class ability, so that's good too. Kill a few more enemies, just because I think we're good on time. Yeah, still got 48 minutes. You're given an hour for each set of floors that you do. And generally, that's more than enough time. But you don't want to spend too much time sort of dicking around just on the off chance that you do run into an enemy or a boss that's particularly nasty. or you don't play in a certain way, you make a few mistakes, like having more time is better. Oh no, I hit a toad trap. That's such a bad thing to happen. Oh, can I attack as a toad? No, I can't. Oh man. It's alright, it's only 6 more seconds. We should be okay. We'll pop out of toad form, shoot this guy in the face, and we'll be good. Bam! Alright. Let's try not to die on the way to the passageway. Alrighty. So level 41 at floor 25, it's not bad. I don't know if there is like a particular sort of intended level you should be for each floor, but we sort of seem to be fitting into the pattern from memory that I normally end up with. Which is, you know, around the sort of 40s at this sort of juncture. When we get to level 60, we won't need to worry about levels as is, we just need to sort of keep an eye on potions and manage resources a little bit better. Ugh, impeding trap. Alright. So, while we wait for that to pop off, I'm still going to be here, but I'm just going to check my messages. Did. Leveled up enough to get a little turret minion as well, so we can now summon that and also cause it to do a pretty powerful one-off attack when it has been summoned, which is nice. Again, more options the better. Palm of Strength, which is also pretty handy. Yeah, let's push for a few more enemies on this floor, why not? Yeah, we'll easily hit 45, maybe even 50, depending on how many enemies we get to before the boss of the floor, which is nice. Nice, 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 nice. Alright, we'll head back. Oh, there's one more room to explore. We'll do that quickly. Maybe one more room, could be 2.
Probably one. Yeah, just the one. But that's fine. 3 more enemies might even level us up. Yeah, Manto's is worth quite a bit of experience, so... Oh, there's a Minotaur as well, so it could also be worth a fair bit. Let's find out. Not enough for a level. Any more enemies floating around? No. Let's just move on. So for anyone who's watching and has sort of just tuned in, the bronze chests we're not dealing with because the items contained within, or the chance for items contained within, aren't worth it at this point. Like, you can sell them for gil afterwards, like when you leave the dungeon, but it's so minute it doesn't really matter. But also there's quite a high chance that it will be a mimic, which, while not too hard to kill on these early stages, can inflict you with a status called Pox, which reduces your overall HP constantly. Sorry, not overall HP, it keeps reducing your health as time passes on, and it lasts for ages. You can remove it with a Pomander of Cleansing, or Serenity rather. Downside is they are quite rare, and worth saving for later levels, like later floors and stuff. Just, excuse you. Oh. Hang on. Oh yeah, so as I was saying, like Pox, if you get that, not the end of the world, especially on earlier floors, but later on, absolutely devastating and worth saving the healing bombs for. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's like a god gamer out there who's been able to do all of this on the hardest class and not had to worry about it, but I am not one of those, so... Oh, I turned the octopus back up and evolved into an octopus. Interesting. Alright, Palm Strength, so we'll use that. Reset that timer on that one, restock back to a full stock of 3. Rush through to the next room. Alright, so we can progress if we want to. I think, based on where we are, it might be in this room? Maybe? Yeah, there we go. Nice and handy. We'll kill these guys, move on. We should hit 50. Should hit level 50 by the time we get to the boss. And if not, we'll wait around for some enemies to spawn and we'll push it to 50. Cool. Items in your bag have transformed to worthless stone. So, that enchantment means all of the poms that I could use are not usable unless I use a Serenity, which removes that enchantment and then gives me use of all these items again. But it also means I cannot use potions to heal, so I will have to rely on auto-healing between battles, and also Second Wind, which has a cooldown time of 2 minutes. So not super useful for healing, especially in dire situations. But we'll see what happens. Okay, so that room is screwy. So we're going to use for Serenity, because we're early enough in Palace of the Dead that it's not really a problem. But we can also demonstrate the Pomander of Rage and how helpful that is when you run into rooms like this. So you transform into a Manticore for a minute, but any enemy that comes near you gets killed in one hit and pushed away. So really quick, easy way to clear a room, get some levels, get out of a tight spot, like just generally useful. See, look at that. We basically cleared an entire room and got almost 2 levels just from transforming. So, super helpful. It looks like a good few of those enemies actually turned into chests as well, which is also handy, but also has the chance to be a mimic. So, could be dangerous. But we've just managed to use a Palm of Strength and Steel. Top ourselves up to 3 of each again, which is good. And we just got a Purity, which removes Pox. So we'll save that one, because that can be quite useful. Because that's the one that removes the Mimic Pox attack that I've talked about a moment ago. It's not the Serenity that gets rid of it, that's just for traps and enchantments. It's specifically Purity removes Pox. So it's a very unique one-off item. Not a one-off item, sorry. It's a one use or one condition item. So worth keeping hold of, especially on later floors where Pox can be super dangerous. Because having Pox and dealing with one enemy on the higher floors can just be a super, super, super dangerous time. Heck, even sometimes one enemy on floors higher than 150 can be a super dangerous time depending on what it is. So, but having a status effect that constantly does damage to you, like ridiculously over time for ages, yeah, not worth it. Damn it. So that was kind of annoying, having the ensnaring trap go off. Not a problem, because it's just the one enemy, and it will only last another second. But if that had happened in that big room of enemies, if I tried to not deal with it as a Manticore, that would have been a bad, bad time. Alright. Let's move on. It's interesting that we haven't had any pop-up for the Accursed Horde while we've had that effect on. It just means we've just gotten unlucky. You know, it hasn't shown up on any of these floors since we popped that, so that's not a problem. It's just the way it goes. It's an RNG-based thing, so... I didn't realise I had my AoE attack now. That's good. Means I can start doing multiple hits to various things. Yeah, come on, whack me awake. There we go. Nice. Alright, so that's where the can of passage is, so we've got to go this way. Nice. Alright, passage is open, which is good. So we'll basically just yeet on down there. And then, realistically, I think, yeah, on the next floor we should hit level 50 and be in line with the boss, which will be good. Makes things easier. Whoa! Landmines, man. Oh, no, let's kill that guy. The one positive with landmines is if you've got a Commander of Sight going and you know there's a landmine because you can see the glyph on the ground. If you're at full health and you've got a Commander of Steel on and you, I don't know, say you run into a group of enemies and all of them aggro you, the one positive of a landmine is it does damage to enemies as well. So you can, like, run through it and with any luck it will murder most of, if not all of them, while you survive. So you just have to make sure that you've, like, maybe got healing going at the same time. And you're using a Commander of Steel for the extra damage resistance. Because doing it without that means that you could get clobbered by the enemies as you run over the mine, and then it all just goes to hell. Which I wouldn't recommend. Oh, there we go. So the Cursed Horde popped on floor 29. So it wouldn't, like I was talking about earlier, it's not worth using the Accursed Horde really on floor 29 unless you're willing to give up a chance to get it. Because if you use it on floor 29 or floor 39 or the floor before the boss, if you don't get it appear on that floor, it's a waste because you don't get another chance. Whereas if you use it on the first floor of the set, if it's not on the first floor, it will tell you which floor it is on until you find it, and then you can use another one if you're at an early enough point in that set of floors. So worth it in the long run, but yeah. Would have been nice to get a few more chances with it, for sure. But either way, I think we've done okay so far. I think we've found, like, 5 or 6 prior to this one, so I don't know, we'll check in a second. Piece of the Accursed Horde. Alright, how many have we found? So, where are they? Is that them? That's a bronze-trimmed sack. Yeah, so this heavy bag containing a portion of the Palace of the Dead's Accursed Horde has been sealed with powerful magic. Only following an appraisal at the hands of a bishop trained in the dispelling of hexes can the seal be broken. So we found 5. So not quite as many as I thought. But that's not bad. Like, they're, you know, they're not common items. And, you know, admittedly, the rewards for doing it are well and truly antiquated by now compared to sort of current rare and sort of valuable dungeon drops and things like that. But, yeah, I think it's still worth it. You get some cool stuff for it. You can get, like, cool little minions. There's some mounts that you can only get through doing this. Effectively, it's just bragging rights, you know, like, especially the title at the end if you do a solo run from 1 to 200. Necromancer is a title that not a lot of people have, but it's also content that, realistically, a lot of people don't even really ever try, because, you know, I don't think it's reductive to say that the sort of player base for Final Fantasy XIV falls into, you know, maybe 3 or 4 camps of people. There are those who play it sort of casually for the story because it's a Final Fantasy story through and through. There's people who play at the very top of the high end, so they play in like the ultimate and the savage difficulty raids and like the most challenging content you can play in the game. Then there's like the RP crowd, so the role-playing crowd who do it to sort of, you know, live out their adventuring fantasies and play with friends and roleplay and stuff. And, you know, yes, there is a I'm going to say seedy, but I don't mean it in like a negative way. There is a seedier side to that. People, people do adult roleplay and stuff in the game as well. There's a couple of articles out there on the internet about how lucrative it can be for some people. And then there's people who play it just to get achievements. There's people who play it to have those bragging rights and say, look, I've done all the content there is in the game. So, yeah, I don't think it's reductive to say that. There's probably many, many, many more camps of people. But, yeah. I mean, you've got the housing crowd as well. Like, the way you can customize and make your own homes and stuff in this is quite good. So, the sort of cozy gamers will get into it for that reason. There's also the Island Sanctuary that gives you like your own private island to sort of farm and make buildings and stuff on, similar to, well, not similar to, sort of akin to Animal Crossing, but with a few more restrictions in terms of like systems and like real world time needing to pass and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a little bit of something in Final Fantasy XIV for everyone, I think. Like if you really wanted to, you could just go to the Gold Saucer and play the minigames all the time. So... I like to think I've done a little bit of everything so far as content is concerned. Like, I've dabbled in some of the harder raid content. I enjoy the story. Admittedly, I haven't progressed into Dawn Trail yet for, the reasons I outlined earlier, but, I was waiting for friends, and now those friends aren't playing anymore. Because, life. But, yeah, I think I've sort of given everything a go. The housing stuff I got into for quite a while, because there are ways that you can sort of manipulate the, the way you can place furniture to make like items float, so you can decorate in a really unintendedly cool way, which is fun. And some of the things people come up with in terms of like making, like private bathhouses and huge guild halls with like runways for fashion shows and stuff is really cool, so... There's definitely a lot of appeal in what the game has to offer, especially one that's been running for so long. But hey, what can you do? Alright, so the boss is level 49. So that's alright. I'm going to pop a strength and a steel for this boss, just because safety. We're also not too far in, but I want to sort of conserve them. Oh, I've already targeted the boss, that's why. Alright, let's go. Let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. Alright, so I've got another one of those attacks, which is restored by me using Heat Blast, so we can rotate through now a little bit more and do more damage more quickly, which is fun. So there we go, we've just dropped the boss from 100% to less than 70% HP in one burst of attacks, which isn't bad. And for Fear itself, we're going to go as far away as possible, pop a sustaining potion to give us regen for a little bit, make sure our health stays topped up. Because Fear itself gives you Hysteria, which makes you lose control and your character just starts running. And the reason I positioned as far away as possible from any of these AoE patches of ice and fire was because if I was to run through those while out of control, I would also get a bunch of additional status effects which would do like extra damage or slow down my character so they'd stay in the AoE for longer, that kind of thing. So, not ideal, but also not too problematic. Again, like on these early levels, especially when you've got max armor, max weaponry, it's not something to worry about too much. But again, position ourselves away from most of those AoEs so that we stay moving. 2 seconds, 1 second, there we go. So one more big burst of attacks and we should get this guy down. Ooh, that was risky. Oh no. Oh no. This might be it. Oh. I played that far too dangerously. I should have popped a sustaining potion before that last fear itself went off, just in case, but we got quite lucky then. I'm not going to turn it down, but it definitely means next floor we play a little bit more sensibly, for sure. Alright, so we're not going to do floors 31 to 40. We're going to exit here, we'll save our progress, and we'll do some admin stuff. So we'll hand in the treasure that we found, see if we get any goodies. We'll go hand in stuff to the Grand Company Hall. We'll just do a little bit of, as I said, we'll do a little bit of admin, make sure that we're in a better position for next time we start. Pick up our things from a delivery Moogle. What do we got here? File of Fantasia. So that's an item I bought from the reward store. Not reward store, sorry. The in-game, like, real money shop. So a bottle of Fantasia allows you to change your character's appearance. I bought that because I don't know if I'm going to, but not to get too deep and meaningful. My character and my history with the game, I played it with a very special person who no longer plays, and, you know, the dynamic with that person has changed in my personal life. So it's a little weird coming back to Final Fantasy XIV. Especially with this character, there's a lot of, you know, a lot of memories attached to it. So I'm thinking about changing the appearance just because, you know, why not? But I also might not. You know, it's just one of those things. One of those lifey adult things that might need to change, but I don't think I will at this point. When he doesn't have the, let's have a look. When he doesn't have the face mask on, let's see. We'll change classes for a bit. We'll just change my outfit and see what happens, and hopefully I don't end up nude. Yeah, there we go. I think he's kind of handsome, personally. You know, handsome little bun boy. Yeah. But yeah, I like his appearance. I like what sort of I've done with the character over the years, so I don't think I want to change it. I might, but it's also something I can always change back if I want to. Like, I've saved the appearance data, so if we need to, it can be made different again. Or rather, I can bring him back to this point if I do change him. For now, let's go back to Gunbreaker. And we'll teleport back to my home city. And we'll... Oh, wait, no. We'll hand in our treasure. Let's do that first, because I am silly. I said we were going to do that. So this is the Expedition Bishop. So this is where we hand in... Hey, Dylan. Thank you for hopping in. It's a bit of an impromptu random stream, so thank you for doing so. In a couple of hours, the video will be available to watch on the channel if you're curious about 14 and sort of what I've been up to. So yeah, by all means, give it a watch next time you're sort of pottering or reading manga or doing whatever. Yeah, thank you for coming along. Yeah, so this is where you hand in the bits of treasure that you find in the dungeon I was just doing. So you can hand all of them over, and they evaluate it and give you items which have varying levels of rarity and use. So this is just a bit of trash. I say trash, it's for fun, roleplay purposes. It's a little sparkler that you can use, which makes your character wave around a little fireworky thing, which can be fun. Next one, Palace of the Dead flooring. So this is a furniture item. Even though it says here sells for 150 gil, you can actually put these up on the private marketplace and sell them for quite a lot more, because, again, you know, Palace of the Dead and like this, the treasure pool that you get from this dungeon, you cannot get without either doing the dungeon yourself or paying for them if someone finds them and puts them up for sale. So because of that, the value increases exponentially when you sell them privately. I've already got one for myself, so I will be selling that one, and we'll check out the marketplace in a little bit. This is, again, just a little sort of fun aesthetic item. You can use this to create like a little magic symbol above your character's head. I'll demonstrate that in a second, just because it's kind of hard to explain without seeing it, I guess. Expeditioner's Coat. So this is a level 1 item used pretty much only for glamoring, or if anyone's familiar with World of Warcraft, transmogging. So you can basically use magic to put the appearance of one piece of armor over the top of another one with better stats. So, yeah. Materia, which you can use to slot into items and weapons and gear to make better. And then again, some pants, which are level 1, but you can just use for glamour purposes. So, not bad, not the worst, not the best. We might make a little bit of money off of it. We'll find that out in a minute when I go to the marketplace people. I say marketplace people, they're basically my indentured servants, but I pay them, I guess, because I pay money for them each month. But yeah, we'll go to the Grand Company, we'll hand in some stuff, because I think I've got some armor to hand in, which will give me points to use for things, which we'll explain in more detail if I ever go and do anything more with them. This guy's rocking the Power Ranger outfit, which is cool. Alright, so, undertake supply and provisioning. So we'll do expert delivery, and we'll hand in all of these bits of armor that I've gotten from my retainers, doing various things. What am I doing? Yeah, that can go. That looks silly. Alright, we'll keep those two, because those are items that I want to use for glamoring. So, we'll now talk to the Quartermaster. And we will buy... oh, we've got plenty of ventures, so we won't buy any ventures. Let's go to materials. We don't have enough for what I wanted to buy, which is fine. We'll just save them for next time. So, yeah, we'll teleport over to my house in the Lavender Beds. I think we got plot 7? No. We originally got plot 7, which was a small house, and then I saved up to get us a medium plot. And I think that's plot 10, maybe? Where are we? I can't read that. No, wait. Ah! I think it's plot 5. I think. Maybe. We'll find out. Anywho. Let's see what my retainers have brought back with them this time. Ring of Healing. Because, yeah, with your retainers, they act effectively as extra storage, but they're also how you put things up on the market board to sell things. You can also send them on little ventures, like little mini adventures, to find specific resources or items for you. So, yeah, it's something that I do pretty much every time I hop on, send them off on a little quick venture, which takes an hour of real-world time. Because they come back with sometimes quite rare and high-level components or items that you can then sell or use if you need them. But you can also send them on proper long-form adventures. Like I think they're either something like 18 to 24 hours long. So you basically send them off, wait a day, come back, and they'll have found something more specific instead of from like a wider loot table. But for now, we'll have a look on the one that's not selling the most stuff. So just send these guys on another quick little hour-long thing. So who's selling what? Selling 2, 6, 7, and 8. We'll just send them on the bottom one, because easier to track what money comes back. So sell items in inventory. Just make things a little bigger, so I can actually see what I'm doing, because this monitor is a lot further away than I'm used to. And that might be easier for you guys to read too. So, Yeah, as you can see, I've got a few things which I've had up for quite a bit of money, but ever since I put them up, they have dropped in price a fair bit. So let's have a look. This Amaranth wall lamp used to sell for around 150,000 gil. So I had it sort of priced under just to actually try and move it, which hasn't happened. And as you can see, people have now cottoned on these are worth quite a bit, and the price has dropped to less than half. So, well, not quite half. But that's fine. We'll change the price of it, and we'll undercut. We'll go 65,000. Let's see if that moves. Royal plotting table also used to be worth quite a bit. Only other one on sale at the moment is worth 23, so we'll sell for 2,500. And that's 20,500, not 2,500. Rough stone flooring. Going for just under 4, so again, we will drop that to like 3,600. Highland potting fence. Previously listed at 77,500. I'm going to chuck that up for 32,500. Highland rounded chimney was 3,050. Lowest on the market now is 100 gil, so not even worth selling anymore. I'm just going to return that to my inventory, and we'll sell that privately to a little vendor. Materia is a weird one. It always fluctuates. So, you know, could be worth a little bit, could be worth nothing. But that's also coming back to the inventory. The corsage was up 300,000 because that was an item I'd not seen previously. But as you can see from this window here, the most expensive one up on the market, which I think is just a placeholder, because a lot of people will use their retainers and the market board slots to effectively store more items, and they list them at ridiculous prices. A, because it takes it out of the inventory of the retainer and your character, so you can store more things that way. But also, there's always the off chance that some, like, crazy person will pay that price for an item thinking, oh, it must be really rare, I'll buy it, and you've suddenly made 3 million, you know, so it's kind of ridiculous. If they're going for less than 10k, still a win, because I got it in a dungeon, so I guess we'll drop it to, like, 8750. Tremor foil is a high quality item not being sold. We'll drop the price. It's not moved in like a year, so I guess we'll chuck 27,500 on it, and then I've still made a profit because I got it for nothing. So, yeah. Alright, let's see. What did we get in the dungeon? We got Palace of the Dead flooring, so we'll see what that's worth. Not a lot, but again, it's fine. We'll chuck it up for 850. Expeditioner's kicks. I think the last time I sold a pair of these, they went for like 20k. Yeah, it's not bad. So again, we'll chuck that up for like 7,500. Someone will buy it. It's all in the name of fashion and glamour. Expeditioner's coat. I think that's what I'm wearing. Yeah. Is it what I'm wearing? Oh, it's what my machinist is wearing. So yeah, we'll chuck it up for 5,000. It's all money at the end of the day. What's that worth? Mine's an ingot, nothing. So that can be sold privately as well. Undyed felt, is that worth anything? Oh, it's 2,000 for a stack. Oh, hang on. So 2,000 a piece. So we'll chuck it up for 1,100 because that way it'll sell. If somebody just needs the one. What's ethereal silk worth? Nothing. Okay. Alright. No worries. That's all good. So, realistically, if all of that adjusted stuff sells, we'll probably make, you know, 100,000-ish. So not too bad. But while we're here, we will also adjust anything else in our retainers' inventories, because why the hell not? Yeah, that can come out because everyone's selling theirs for ridiculous money. And ridiculous in a bad sense. That can drop down to 37,500. Hopefully that'll move. Carbuncle wardrobe, 1250 on it currently. Still hasn't moved, so we'll drop it to 1,000. Cloth softening powder. I don't know why I had that listed so expensive, but going for less than 10k now, so 7,500 for one. Glamour prisms. These normally sell really well, but the price keeps dropping because everyone undercuts everyone, which is super annoying. So we'll chuck those up for 150 a piece. Make 15k back, I guess, which isn't bad. We'll drop those to 7,500 to undercut the guy who's matched my price. We'll keep those at 16,500. Alright, Palace Pedestal. 42,500. Yeah, we'll keep that at that price because it's not moving. Malja Supply Carriage. This used to be worth a lot, but yeah, again, not moving. It's been up for a long time. Gatherer's Guile Materia. 500 for one now compared to the thousands it was last time I put it on here. So we'll do 350 just to get them to move. Iridescent Silk Thread. So we've got 898, so we'll do 750 for those. Stack of 4 means we'll probably get about 2.5 after taxes are paid. Because yes, taxes are a thing, even in this world. Something to do with keeping the economy working, like in-game without breaking things. Something like that. Elegant Gauntlets of Maiming, I will drop to a cool 5750. And that Visor of Maiming can probably stay where it's at, honestly. Yep, that can stay there. Okay, one more retainer to adjust. And then hopefully we'll come back tomorrow and some sales will have been made. So Palace Pedestal. 42,500, yep, we'll keep it at that. And those Morning Glories, we will drop to 1750. Alright, so that's that done. So that's all the little admin-y stuff that I normally do beginning and end of a session. So for now, we'll pop into the house, because we've got our own set of... I guess I can show off the house as well. We've got our own set of vendors in here as well. So we've got a snake lady who welcomes people. This is the upstairs, which I cannot take credit for decorating. For context, my housemate, Coda, she used to play with us, me, my friend MC, and another friend of ours, Alicia. We had a guild, or free company, rather, called the Truffle Pigs, which still exists, and I'm still hoping that eventually people will want to come back and play a little bit, which would be nice. But Coda is very much responsible for the full decoration of our eating and kitchen area. So all of this was just funded by various sellings and extra sort of grinding for Gil and things that I did. And I basically, on request, from Coda, said, yeah, sure, let's just go nuts and do as much as we can as far as decorating and making it look as super cool as we can. So, yeah, Coda's responsible for pretty much all of this, turning this kitchen into like a really cool, rustic, witchy almost, not witchy, but fantasy cook place. It just looks great. All of these items are actually consumable as well, so you can like click on these, partake of, and get the food buff that you'd normally get from stuff in your inventory anyway. One of our free company members plays a Lalafell, which is the teeny tiny dwarf race. So we put a baby chair at the end of the table for them, because we thought that was funny. Bats all over the wall, which is pretty cool. And then Coda also took it upon herself to make us a really fancy shower room and like a hot springy type thing, which is super, super cool. And then, so down here, this is where the bulk of my time went, because these panels and like these sort of like boxes, or this raised stage area, isn't normally able to be stacked in this way. And I can't remember if the term is called floating or not, and like these stairs shouldn't be able to be stacked the way they are, because it's just one panel. You can see from where I've had to position the second one.
that it should be just one panel that goes to sort of like the 4th or 5th step. But I think the term is floating, and you can manipulate the in-game furniture when you're in build mode to be stackable in different ways depending on the way that you perform the inputs to move furniture and place things. So those stairs have been floated, so they're not actually really connected to anything, but it works as a functional thing. It's definitely like it's an unintended part of like the game design, but because it's so useful and so many people do it, and it would break so many cool designs, I think the developers have just left it in, because why the heck not? But yeah, all of these boxes and like these stage pieces, they're normally like 1 or 2 layers like between them, like here. But I've stacked them on top of each other to get this really cool raised effect here to create like a little tea lounge. And all of this stuff, like the actual lounge portions here, these L-shaped bits, are also only placeable on the floor. So in order to get them up here, I had to float them using that method I've just described earlier. And yeah, it's really cool. This is like a big magic screen that shows off the Crystal Tower, one of the most important, I guess, structures, both just in the game world in terms of like design and architecture, but also like plot-wise. Super duper important for the story. Sort of the linchpin of a lot of stuff, actually, now I think about it. All of the portraits around here are of major characters in the game. So this is Louisoix. He's like the arch-wizard of the world, and back in original Final Fantasy XIV, not, you know, the base game that we're playing now, but Final Fantasy XIV 1.0. He is the person responsible for sort of saving the world, but also kind of destroying it. Yeah, he basically at the very end of the game, the world ends. In 1.0, the world ends, and he basically rescues all of the sort of heads of state of all the main cities and the main character and your allies, and sends you 5 years into the future, when the world has sort of started to rebuild and recover from a world-ending calamity. And then there's a huge plot line involving Bahamut and him that you can do as part of like an extra set of harder difficulty dungeons at the end of the base game of A Realm Reborn. That's Minfilia, another sort of important main character for the story. Not going to go into too much detail just in case anyone sort of actually does decide to play off the base of this. This is Hildebrand Mandeville. There's a huge, like, funny, like, comedic detective storyline based around him and his assistant, which gets expanded on every single time a game gets updated and has a new expansion, which has been really, really fun. And then you've got... I can't remember her name because it changed halfway through the story. But that's Papalimo and some other chick. That's the game's resident Sid character, so he's the resident mechanic and engineer who helps you out and builds airships and cool stuff. This guy, his name is Hoshafont, and I'm not going to say anything. He is Best Boy, one of the saddest characters in the game, because it's just, yeah, just play it. Even if you only play up to Heaven's Ward, just play it, because, oh, so good. This is the little study nook. So this is, you know, where maps and things get drawn up and all the books and stuff are scattered around. Little library. Some creepy dolls hiding under the bookshelf, which we put there in an effort to freak MC out, but yeah. Little hanging chair on a little garden of fairy flowers. And then we've got our secret bookshelf, which leads down to the basement, where we've got our treasure vault, all of our treasure and magic items, fish tanks, artifacts from various adventures, mission table where we plot where we're going next and all that silliness when we're role-playing. You can use this bell to summon the Ace Fatician, who lets you change your hairstyle. Another picture of Louisoix, because why not? And then we've got our bar, which is pretty fun. But yeah, I think it's a pretty cool house. Like, it's not going to win any design awards in terms of, like, overall... what am I trying to say? It's not going to win any awards in terms of, like, contests or anything, because those do exist. But
I think for the work we put in and the time and the money that we did, it's pretty good, because it's not the most extensively designed or invested in thing. And then you've got just our garden, which is, really lovely trees from Lakeland, which is from the Shadowbringers expansion. Monster Hunter camping stuff from a Monster Hunter crossover, targeting dummies for practicing combos and things. Outdoor deck. Stargazing equipment, mushrooms, because Coda really likes fungi, and just, mushrooms and stuff are super, super cool. Like, they're a really interesting life form. But yeah, that's Chateau de la Truffe. That is the Truffle Pig's house. Yeah, spent a lot of time here. Lots of fond memories playing this one, which is why I'm trying to get back into it. Like, I like Final Fantasy XIV, and I want to keep playing it and have fun with it still. So, hopefully this was enjoyable. For anyone who watched along while I was doing things, great, thank you for joining in. Anyone who is watching now as part of just the video which has been saved and uploaded to YouTube, thank you. And if you're interested in hearing me ramble about my love of video games, and Ben, Floppy, and Brayden also talking about the things they like that are video game and pop culture based, you can catch us every second Friday live here on YouTube, youtube.com/@YouDon'tKnowVideoGames. We record a weekly podcast, and we do that every 2 weeks. Next show is on the 26th of September, so it'll be next Friday, if you're watching prior to the 26th. And then, yeah, every second Friday from then on. And then, yeah, I, at the moment, am still trying to figure out what my schedule looks like while I'm in between jobs and things, and life is happening around me, much to my chagrin, because change is awful and I hate it. But yeah, I'm trying to stream more often and do a variety of stuff. I'll probably do Final Fantasy maybe once a week. Currently in the middle of playing Silksong. I do want to get back to playing Clone Hero on stream. Some really cool new modern guitar controllers have just been launched by the original members of the hardware team for Guitar Hero, with modern stuff like micro switches and Hall effect strum bars and things, so they're going to be super high quality and not break and just work instead of relying on 20-plus-year-old hardware at this point. But yeah, and Floppy occasionally streams things as well. I know Brayden wants to get into streaming, but Ben is tied up with coming up with topics and hosting and planning and organising equipment and all that stuff. So if we ever do a stream with Ben that is gameplay focused, it'll be announced probably well ahead of time. But if you're interested, chuck a subscription through on the channel. It's always helpful. We also have a free Discord, which you can get to by going to hackthedino.com. That's our link tree where everything's available. We've got a Patreon if you're so inclined, but you can join our Discord for free. Just come and chat with like-minded people who like all things pop culture, anime, video games, music, movies, card games, board games, and you name it. Like, you could chuck a topic out there and someone in there will be like, yeah, me too. And yeah, you can do all that cool stuff. And if you really want to support us, you can do so on Patreon for a couple of dollars, which is always welcome. But for now, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for watching if you have, live or otherwise. And yeah, if you join the Discord and follow us on social media, we're on Instagram as well and all those other places. Yeah, you'll know slightly ahead of time when things like this are going to happen. So thank you, and I'll catch you guys next time.